Crime and Punishment is one of Fyodor Dostoevsky's most famous and influential novels, offering a deep psychological exploration of crime, guilt, and redemption. Set in St. Petersburg, the novel follows the internal turmoil and moral struggle of Rodion Romanovich Raskolnikov, a young, impoverished student who believes he is capable of transcending traditional moral laws. The novel deals with intense philosophical questions about morality, free will, justice, and the nature of humanity. Raskolnikov's central idea, which drives much of the novel's plot, is his belief in the concept of the extraordinary man. He theorizes that some people, such as Napoleon or great historical figures, are above the law and have the right to commit crimes if it benefits society or advances their purpose. This dangerous belief leads him to justify the murder of Alyona Ivanovna, a greedy and cruel old pawnbroker whom he views as worthless and parasitic. Raskolnikov reasons that her death would rid the world of evil and potentially give him the resources to improve his own situation and help others. However, the crime does not go as planned. In a chaotic moment, Raskolnikov also kills Lizaveta, Alyona's innocent and kind-hearted sister, who unexpectedly walks in during the murder. This unplanned second murder devastates Raskolnikov's conscience, setting off the psychological unraveling that drives the rest of the novel. Following the murder, Raskolnikov descends into paranoia, guilt, and illness. He becomes increasingly isolated, avoiding friends and family, and grows suspicious of everyone around him. His mental and emotional state deteriorates as he is plagued by nightmares, physical weakness, and an overpowering sense of dread. He oscillates between justifying his crime and being horrified by his own actions. Raskolnikov's internal conflict is further complicated by the introduction of several key characters who challenge his nihilistic worldview. His devoted mother, Pulcheria, and his sister, Dunya, both represent familial love and sacrifice, which stand in stark contrast to his cold, detached rationalizations. Dunya's own moral struggles, including her relationship with the manipulative and arrogant Luzhin, offer a parallel narrative that explores themes of integrity and self-worth. Perhaps the most significant influence on Raskolnikov comes from Sonya Marmeladov, the daughter of a destitute family who turns to prostitution to support her family. Sonya embodies the novel's themes of suffering, compassion, and faith. Despite her tragic circumstances, she maintains a deep religious faith and a belief in the possibility of redemption. Sonya's kindness and patience become a moral beacon for Raskolnikov as he is drawn to her purity and strength in the face of adversity. Raskolnikov's interactions with Sonya, as well as the persistent investigation of the intelligent and relentless police inspector, Porfiry Petrovich, push him further toward a breaking point. Porfiry suspects Raskolnikov of the murder from early on, but instead of immediately arresting him, Porfiry engages him in a series of psychological confrontations, seeking to draw out his confession through mental and emotional pressure. These interactions highlight the novel's psychological depth and the tension between justice and mercy. In contrast to Raskolnikov's intellectual arrogance and nihilism, other characters in the novel provide alternative worldviews. Razumikin, Raskolnikov's loyal and pragmatic friend, represents an optimistic and morally grounded perspective. He believes in the value of hard work, kindness, and ethical behavior, contrasting with Raskolnikov's tortured philosophy. As Raskolnikov spirals deeper into guilt and paranoia, he ultimately confesses his crime to Sonya. She encourages him to seek redemption through confession and repentance, urging him to embrace suffering as a path to spiritual rebirth. In the novel's climactic moment, Raskolnikov finally goes to the police and admits his guilt, leading to his imprisonment in Siberia. The novel ends not with Raskolnikov's punishment for his crime, but with the possibility of his spiritual redemption. While in prison, Raskolnikov initially remains cold and detached, but Sonya's unwavering support and faith slowly begin to affect him. In the final pages, he begins to experience the first stirrings of genuine remorse and a desire to reconnect with humanity. Dostoevsky hints at the beginning of a long journey toward redemption, suggesting that Raskolnikov's suffering may eventually lead to spiritual transformation. Themes and ideas in the novel: crime, guilt, and punishment. The central theme of Crime and Punishment is the exploration of crime and its psychological and moral consequences. Raskolnikov's crime is not merely a physical act, but a philosophical experiment in which he tests his belief that he can transcend conventional morality. However, after committing the murder, Raskolnikov is consumed by guilt and inner torment. His mental anguish and paranoia serve as a form of psychological punishment, showing that true punishment is not just legal or physical, but also internal. Dostoevsky explores the idea that guilt is unavoidable for those who commit immoral acts, regardless of their intellectual justifications. Raskolnikov's attempts to rationalize his actions are ultimately futile, as his conscience will not allow him to escape the moral consequences of his crime. This theme emphasizes Dostoevsky's belief in the inescapable nature of moral law and the human capacity for guilt. The extraordinary man theory. Raskolnikov's extraordinary man theory is central to the novel's philosophical exploration. He believes that some people are inherently superior and have the right to break the law if it serves a higher purpose. This theory is modeled on the ideas of utilitarianism and the notion that ends justify means. Raskolnikov sees figures like Napoleon as examples of individuals who have achieved greatness by committing acts that would be considered immoral by ordinary standards. However, Raskolnikov's experiment fails as he is unable to live with the consequences of his actions. His theory is ultimately flawed because it disregards the value of individual lives and the inherent moral worth of all people. Dostoevsky critiques this kind of nihilistic philosophy, suggesting that no one can truly escape moral responsibility and that attempting to do so leads to personal and spiritual destruction. Suffering and redemption. A key theme in Crime and Punishment is the idea that suffering can lead to redemption. Throughout the novel, Dostoevsky presents suffering as an essential part of the human condition, but also as a path to spiritual awakening. Raskolnikov's suffering, both physical and psychological, becomes a form of purification. It is only through his suffering that he can begin to confront his own guilt and seek redemption. Sonia, who suffers greatly but maintains her faith and compassion, serves as a model of redemptive suffering. She embodies the Christian idea that suffering, when borne with humility and faith, can lead to salvation. Raskolnikov's journey toward redemption begins when he accepts his guilt and acknowledges the need for repentance, following Sonia's example. Alienation and isolation. Raskolnikov's sense of alienation is another major theme in the novel. From the beginning, he is portrayed as a man who feels disconnected from society, his family, and even himself. His intellectual arrogance leads him to believe that he is different from and superior to others, which further isolates him. This isolation intensifies after the murder as he becomes consumed by guilt and paranoia. Dostoevsky explores how alienation can lead to moral decay and psychological breakdown. Raskolnikov's isolation prevents him from experiencing empathy or human connection, and it is only through his interactions with Sonia and his eventual confession that he begins to reconnect with others and heal. Moral and religious themes. Crime and Punishment is deeply infused with moral and religious themes, particularly in its exploration of sin, guilt, and redemption. Dostoevsky's Christian worldview is evident throughout the novel, especially in his portrayal of Sonia as a Christ-like figure who represents unconditional love, compassion, and faith. Her influence on Raskolnikov highlights the novel's belief in the possibility of redemption through faith and moral awakening. Raskolnikov's eventual acceptance of his guilt and his decision to confess represent the first step in his spiritual redemption. The novel suggests that true salvation is not found in intellectual theories or material success, but in humility, repentance, and a sincere acknowledgement of one's sins. Conclusion. Crime and Punishment is a masterful exploration of the human psyche, morality, and the nature of crime. Dostoevsky delves deeply into Raskolnikov's internal struggles, using his character's descent into guilt and madness as a means to explore larger philosophical questions about morality, justice, and human nature. Through Raskolnikov's journey from intellectual arrogance and isolation to guilt and eventual confession, the novel illustrates the profound consequences of crime, not just legally, but spiritually and psychologically. Dostoevsky suggests that redemption is possible, but only through suffering, repentance, and the embrace of moral truth. Ultimately, Crime and Punishment offers a complex meditation on the battle between good and evil within the human soul, emphasizing the power of faith, love, and moral responsibility in the quest for redemption. Created for Squeeze That Book channel. Please subscribe to follow new videos and leave a comment with your thoughts about the book.